Welcome back to the Hardware Unboxed News Corner. A lot of interesting stories to get to this week, including Intel yet again leaking their own products before an official announcement, AMD's supposedly superior performance in the Battlefield 5 closed alpha, plus a few cool monitors and other bits and bobs. Let's get into it. This first story was actually given to us by Sal Kagan in our Patreon exclusive Discord chat, so thanks to them for looking through some Intel documents and pointing this out. Anyway, Intel has leaked the names and specifications of their upcoming 9000 series processors ahead of time in what is another accidental reveal of products that are yet to be formally announced. This same sort of thing happened a few months ago with the Z390 chipset, and now we're seeing leaks regarding the CPUs themselves. In any case, Intel's official microcode update guidance document revealed the names of 7 9000 series processors, which interestingly are listed under the Coffee Lake S code name and 8th generation branding. I think they will end up officially as 9th gen processors, but at least in these documents they fall under 8th gen, so we'll use Intel's official terms for now. The microcode document is interesting because it provides the names, but it's actually a different official document that revealed the specifications and confirms everything. This one titled June 2018 8th Gen Core Family Update. Again, 7 new processors are listed here ranging from the Core i3 9000 to the Core i5 9600K. In what will be disappointing news to many enthusiasts, it looks like these 9000 series parts are pretty basic refreshers of Intel's current Coffee Lake products. The i5 9600K, for example, is exactly the same as the i5 8600K, except the base clock is raised from 3.6 to 3.7 GHz, and the maximum turbo frequency is raised from 4.3 to 4.5 GHz. That's it. It's not really clear whether the 9600K has hyper-threading enabled, the 8600K of course does not, but everything else including TDP, cache, graphics and core count remains the same. It's a similar story with the rest of the product lineup. Intel appears to be giving 100 to 200 MHz clock speed bumps for most parts, but it looks like the silicon is exactly the same otherwise. For an unlocked part like the 9600K, the clock speed bumps will be pretty meaningless as this CPU should overclock to pretty much the same levels as the 8600K. What is not seen in either of these Intel documents is the Core i7 9700K. It's not listed among other processors with the 6+2 configuration, in other words, 6 core processors, in the microcode document, whereas the 8700K is found there. It's hard to know for sure, but this would suggest that the 9700K will feature a different configuration and may not be a basic refresh of existing Coffee Lake processors. If I had to guess, I'd say the 9700K will be the long-awaited 8-core Coffee Lake chip, but we'll find out in a few months. This next story is one that's been doing the rounds a fair bit this week. PC Games N tested the Battlefield 5 closed alpha and found the AMD Radeon RX 580 destroying the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 6GB in both DirectX 11 and DirectX 12 tests. In their testing, the RX 580 was 65% faster than the GTX 1060 at 1080p using DirectX 11 when comparing the minimum frame rates, and was more than twice as fast in DX12, and at 1440p they found a 40% margin in favor of the RX 580. These are pretty interesting and quite surprising results, but there's a lot of things to consider. Firstly, Battlefield 5 is just an alpha right now, and it's not clear what level of driver optimization and support has been made by AMD and NVIDIA. That said, these are sizable margins, and the game is supposed to be an NVIDIA title at launch, so we'll see how those things end up at release. It's also important to note that testing multiplayer games in a controlled, repeatable fashion is pretty difficult. The Battlefield 5 closed alpha appears to be multiplayer only, and we really have no idea how PC Games N tested the title. Plus, their results are actually contradictory to what Sweetlockers found in the game. They had the RX 580 only narrowly beating the GTX 1060 in their testing, which is more in line with the typical result for an RX 580 versus GTX 1060. Ideally, we'd like to take a look and see what's going on and what could be the cause of PC Games N's results, but unfortunately, it's a closed alpha and we don't have access, so you'll just have to wait a bit for our benchmarks. Oh, and an official bug list on the Battlefield forums lists a massive performance issue is present with the AMD RX series cards. With PC Games N suggesting AMD cards perform significantly better than NVIDIA at the moment, and Sweetlockers finding something different, it's possible that AMD cards are not correctly rendering some effects at the moment for some users and configurations. Also, PC Games N tested with a Ryzen CPU, while Sweetlockers tested with Coffee Lake, so there might be a few differences there. We'd be taking most of these results with a grain of salt right now until more testing is done anyway. I certainly don't think AMD will destroy NVIDIA in this title, at least by this sort of margin come the final release. Couple of bits of monitor news now. Acer has launched the ProDesigner BM270, which is a 27-inch 4K professional grade display with HDR support. And it's not just any sort of HDR. The IPS panel sports 1000 nits of peak brightness, and it has 384 local dimming zones. Plus, the panel is capable of reproducing 97.8% of the DCI P3 gamut. We're also looking at 4 millisecond grade-to-grade response times and 178-degree viewing angles. Importantly for professionals, the BM270 features factory calibration to sub 1.0 Delta E's. It's also not designed for gaming, so the refresh rate is capped to 60 Hz. I have a feeling this monitor might be using the same panel as the 4K 144Hz G-Sync HDR displays, considering its specifications, except of course without G-Sync support and without support for high refresh rates. While it doesn't have G-Sync, it's still not going to come cheap. It'll set you back $1,700 when it hits shelves soon. Speaking of products hitting shelves, the Philips Momentum 43-inch 4K HDR display is now available. I covered this monitor in News Corner a couple of weeks ago, but basically it's a 43-inch Quantum Dot MVA panel with Display HDR 1000 certification, meaning 1000 nits of peak brightness and proper HDR support. Plus it supports FreeSync and has an overclockable refresh rate of 80 Hz. In Europe, the monitor is priced at €800 and it should come in near $800 in the US. However, Amazon US is currently selling it for $1,000 for some reason, which is a bit inflated. In any case, the monitor is available now for those that are interested. ASRock has expanded their line of Phantom gaming graphics cards to include the Radeon RX Vega 56 and Vega 64. Both cards use a reference air-cooled design and stock clock speed, so neither is particularly exciting. We're expecting pricing to fall near the proper MSRP for these cards, but we don't have confirmation on exact pricing just yet. They should be available soon. Cooler Master has launched the Mastercase H500, a cheaper alternative to their H500P and H500M cases. This new chassis, not to be confused with NZXT's H500 case, keeps the two front 200mm RGB fans, and you'll be able to choose between an airflow optimized mesh front or a transparent panel front. You'll still be able to fit a 360mm radiator in the front and a 280mm radiator in the top, and all the basic features of the other H500 cases have transitioned over. The H500 should be available at the end of July for around $100 if you're interested. So I thought this story was particularly funny this week. Sony has stuffed up massively by uploading an entire movie to YouTube instead of just the trailer. The company posted what was supposed to be a trailer for the movie Carly the Killer, which incidentally has a terrible score on IMDb, but instead of uploading the trailer, they managed to upload the entire film, all 1 hour and 29 minutes of it, with a title that says trailer. I honestly have no idea how this sort of error could occur. Was there a folder on the uploader's computer that had both the trailer and the full movie in it for some reason, and someone just carelessly dragged the wrong one into the YouTube uploader? It's pretty bizarre stuff. The film has now been removed, but it's a pretty hilarious mistake by Sony there. Moving into some rumors to end this video. Firstly, we have what appears to be the first benchmark result for the upcoming Ryzen 3 2300X. This is supposedly a 65-watt processor with 4 cores and 4 threads, along with a 3.5 GHz base clock and 4.2 GHz boost clock. Those specs place it very similar to the Ryzen 3 2200G, just without the integrated graphics and with a faster CPU turbo clock. I'd expect pricing to sit around that of the 2200G as well, though we don't really know for sure at the moment. Anyway, we have a CPU-Z screenshot and a Cinebench R15 MT run that shows a score of 690, and that seems about right for this sort of CPU, and judging by the photos and other stuff, this one looks pretty legitimate to me. It's expected the 2300X will launch alongside B450 motherboards in a couple of weeks. I know some people are probably wondering about the supposed appearance of a GTX 1180 at a Vietnamese retailer priced at $1,500 and with a GT104 GPU. Well, this one is pretty clearly fake, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. The photo is just a photoshopped Asus ROG Strix GTX 1080 box, and that price is just a straight up guess. So is the launch date of September 28. So definitely don't believe every rumor you see. And the final rumor from this week concerns AMD's allegedly upcoming H-series processors for performance notebooks. A couple more leaks have appeared this week detailing the 45-watt SKUs and some specs. An engineering QS sample featured a quad-core 8-thread CPU with a 3.3 GHz base clock, 3.6 GHz boost clock, and Vega 11 graphics. In other words, it's a fully unlocked Ryzen APU die, similar to the 2400G, just with lower CPU clocks. With more leaks relating to this CPU, it seems seems pretty clear AMD is getting closer to a release, so hopefully it won't be too long before AMD has a competitive CPU for high performance laptops. Anyway, that's it for this week's News Corner. If you enjoyed these videos, give it a like and consider subscribing so you can get it in your inbox every Friday. We also have an exclusive Discord chat available to our Patreon, so check that out too. Links in the description, and I'll catch you next time.